What if I told you that tea, a simple beverage, was a catalyst for a revolution? It all started in 1763, at the end of the French and Indian War. The British, victorious but financially drained, sought to recoup their losses by increasing taxation on their American colonies. By 1764, the Sugar Act was passed, turning the sweet taste of sugar from the West Indies bitter in the mouths of the colonists. It was a clear case of taxation without representation, and resentment began to simmer. Then in 1765, the Stamp Act was introduced, requiring tax stamps on all legal documents and papers. The colonists' anger was palpable, but in 1766, something unexpected happened. The Stamp Act was repealed, giving the colonists a taste of victory. However, it was short-lived as the Declaratory Act was passed, reasserting Britain's right to tax and legislate for the colonies. So the seeds of resentment were sown, leading to a bitter harvest. Imagine being taxed on everything, even on your favorite cup of tea. Picture the year 1767. The British government, in a bid to recover its war debts, imposed the Townshend Acts. This legislation levied taxes on a range of goods imported into the colonies, including glass, lead, paints, paper, and yes, even that beloved tea. This taxation without representation stirred up a tempest in the colonies, leading to widespread protests. The tension between the colonists and the British government continued to escalate. By 1770, the streets of Boston turned into a battlefield. The infamous Boston Massacre saw British soldiers killing 5 colonists, a tragic incident that fanned the flames of anti-British sentiments. In 1772, a new chapter in this saga unfolded with the formation of the Committees of Correspondence. These committees, a network of communication among patriot leaders in the colonies, played a vital role in coordinating colonial opposition to British policies. However, the real boiling point came in 1773 with the passing of the Tea Act. This act allowed the mighty British East India Company to sell tea directly to the colonies, bypassing colonial merchants and further undercutting their profits. This reignited the anger over taxation without representation, a principle that the colonists held dear. That same year, ships laden with tea sailed into Boston Harbor, but the colonists, in a firm stance against the British policies, refused to allow the tea to be unloaded. The ships lay in the harbor, their cargo untouched, their presence a constant reminder of the British tyranny. This was more than a tax on tea. It was a question of rights and liberties. It was a struggle against an oppressive regime. It was a fight for freedom, and in this fight, the humble tea became a symbol of resistance, a symbol of rebellion. And thus, the stage was set for a historical showdown. The tension in the air was palpable. The colonists were ready to make a stand, ready to take action, ready to make history. The Boston Tea Party was on the horizon. Ever thought of dressing up as a Mohawk Indian and throwing tea into a harbor? Well, some folks did. It was December 1773, and the colonists had had enough. In what we now call the Boston Tea Party, they donned disguises, boarded British ships, and dumped 342 chests of tea into Boston Harbor. Their message? No taxation without representation. But Britain wasn't about to back down. In response, they passed the coercive acts, including closing Boston Harbor until the spilled tea was paid for. Talk about adding salt to the wound. The colonies, however, were not deterred. In fact, they began to unite. Delegates from 12 of the 13 colonies convened the First Continental Congress in Philadelphia to coordinate their response. The Suffolk Resolves were adopted, calling for the immediate repeal of the intolerable acts and for colonies to prepare for military defense. This preparation soon proved crucial as the battles of Lexington and Concord erupted. The first shots of the Revolution had been fired. So, what does a Tea Party have to do with the birth of a nation? Well, the Boston Tea Party was more than just a protest against tea taxes. It was the spark that ignited the flame of revolution. The Second Continental Congress convened in 1775, managing the colonial war effort and gradually moving towards independence. The following year, the Declaration of Independence was penned, severing ties with Britain and citing grievances including the infamous taxation without representation. The American Revolutionary War raged on from 1776 to 1783, with the Boston Tea Party serving as a potent symbol of colonial resistance. The Treaty of Paris, signed in 1783, officially ended the war and recognized the independence of the United States. Today, the Boston Tea Party is not just a moment in history, but an enduring symbol of American protest and resistance against perceived tyranny. And that, my friends, is how a cup of tea brewed a revolution and helped shape the nation we know today.